That's okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
One more.
Front row? Okay. Good morning. This morning, I will play an arrangement of this number in our hymnal, great hymnal, with words by Ralph Waldo Emerson. No number tallies nature up. I just read the first verse. No number tallies nature up, no tribe its house can fill. It is the shining fount of life and pours the deluge still, and gathers by its fragile powers along the centuries. From race on race, the rarest flowers, its wreath shall nothing miss. So this is actually Ralph Waldo Emerson's words. So if you want to follow along or sing along or hum along, it's an old tune that is from a book called Southern Harmony from 1835, so collected kind of folk melodies that became hymns.
Thanks, Karen. I think we all needed that. We have a flexible service today to just show how flexible we are here at Summit Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. So instead of the song that was supposed to come right before the sermon, we're going to sing Inchworm now. This is a song by Frank Loesser, and it's from the film Hans Christian Andersen, if you're old enough to remember Danny Kaye singing this song.
And the choir was kind enough to volunteer at the last minute to help lead this song. So we had 15 minutes to practice it. But with Karen's help, we should be able to serenade you.
I'm going to explain a little bit because the idea was to have that just before Reverend Everett's sermon, and he's a mathematician as well as a minister, a UU minister. Reverend Everett was our minister for a couple of years during COVID after Reverend Frank retired, and so we're very happy to have him back. And so the idea was to kind of connect the math and his sermon. So anyway, that's it. And thank you all for joining us this morning in person and those of you on Zoom. Summit is a liberal religious community bound together by shared principles drawn from world religions, humanist teachings, nature and science, philosophy, and personal practices. We are a religion of love and inclusion. The mission of Summit is to commit ourselves to building a more compassionate, just, and sustainable world. If you are new to Unitarian Universalism, there's mostly old friends here, but a few new friends, and welcome to you all. If you're new to Unitarian Universalism or Summit and would like to know more about us, we invite you to go to our website, summituuf.org, which is in a state of transition at this point, I think, so bear with us. Click on the visitors button and fill out your online connection card, and someone will follow up with you. Okay. Centering thought. Sorry. I'm discombobulated myself today, so announcements. We got plenty of announcements today. We have 4 announcements. We've got Serafina, Roland, Ren, Shannon, and Mark. So get in line.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm here to talk about our prayer circle, which started last Thursday, and it's going to continue, only there's a slight change in that it's going to be on the first Thursday of the month, starting September 4 at 1 o'clock, 1 to 2:30. And it'll be on the first Thursday instead of the third Thursday to accommodate more people. So come and try us out if you'd like. It's a drop-in, drop-out group. There's no commitment. Okay, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Shannon Allen. I'm one of the chairs for the auction committee. And I welcome you pixies and fairies who have been frolicking in the marigolds. Our auction is to raise funds for our brick and mortar bills so that we can spend money on the other projects and social justice projects that we do. Our purpose right now is to raise business donations, and I need your help. We've received a little over a dozen, and our goal is about 60 to 80. So if you do the math, we need quite a few. So I need your help. There's several ways to do that. One is you can take this form, which has a letter and a donation form on the back, to your favorite business. They really like to see you in person nowadays, and ask them if they would be willing to donate. Another way is there's a lot of online donation options. You can also just reach out to me and say, hey, this is the address of a business that I think would be really good to donate. I'm happy to send out a letter. I've gotten a lot of stamps to send out more letters. So please help the committee raise business donations. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thanks so much.
Good morning, all. I'm speaking for the Social Justice and Action Committee this morning. Coming in this morning, listening on the radio, I heard that our wonderful Department of Homeland Security is keeping us safe by taking children away from their parents on their way to Mass this morning in Chicago and in Philadelphia and in New York. We can stop this. We can speak up and raise our voices against this cruel, corrupt, fascist administration and what's doing to our country. There are so many things to do. September 1st, there will be a mass protest down at Waterfront Park. It's called the Workers Over Billionaires. It's been organized by many groups, including indivisible.org. So September 1st, that's a Monday, Labor Day protest down at Waterfront Park. Every Thursday and Saturday mornings here in El Cajon in front of Parkway Plaza, 60 to 150 of us gather on the street and protest, wave signs, get people passing by to notice what's going on. That's every Thursday and Saturday. Tuesday afternoons, people stand over the bridge on I-8 holding signs on the Severn Bridge over I-8 in La Mesa.
Wednesday. Tuesday is Social Security in La Mesa.
I'm sorry, thank you. So, reach out to Jenny for our information. No, you can reach out to anyone on the Social Justice Committee. Al Mork is our chair. You can reach out to me. There's so many ways to stand up and have your voice be heard. This is our time. We have to do it now. We may not be able to vote in the next election, so we've got to make ourselves heard now. Thanks.
Ren, what time on the first? Waterfront Park, what time?
It'll start. I'm not sure, Al, but keep your eye on the e-news, and you'll be seeing a lot of these messages and announcements in the e-news coming up. Thanks.
Oh, okay, guys, fight it out.
Buenos dias. I'm Roland, and today I'm channeling. I'm not really quite sure whether it's Ozzy Osbourne, somebody. I'm dressed all in black, in mourning for what is happening in our country, and I would like to invite you all to join us for the Santee Lakes UU Picnic and Revival. It's happening on September 14th. There are refrigerator-ready flyers at the back of the room. Please grab one. I also brought in the first batch of my avocados from my avocado trees. Just take a few of them. There's going to be lots more. And if you have any questions, I'm in the book, and I am also on the website with my name, address, phone number, social security number, American Express card, all the rest of that. So, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mark Weedman. Two things. One, in the interest of hydration, everyone should know that there's a water cooler in the hallway here next to the restrooms, and so please stay hydrated today. Secondly, this Tuesday night in the library, the Tuesday Night Men's Group will host its monthly open house meeting. All men in the community are welcome. We meet from 6:30 to 8, and if you have questions or want to know more, see me after the service. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. For more than 10,000 years, the Kumeyaay people have lived on this land, stretching from the shores of the Pacific Ocean, south through Ensenada, east to the sand dunes of the Colorado River in Imperial Valley, and north to Warner Springs. We acknowledge that this fellowship resides on unceded Kumeyaay land and honor the continuing presence of the Kumeyaay Nation. I think I forgot the centering thought, and I forgot to say, my name is Jenny Sarr. And, okay, centering thought. There is a reason, after all, that some people wish to colonize the moon and others dance before it as before an ancient friend. From our very first breath, we reach out. Co-regulation, not self-regulation, is in our nature. We find our cues from the sun and the moon, from each parent and caregiver. We find our place in this great turning planet by turning to one another, generation to generation. We awaken to the dawn and fall asleep at the evening's end. Our life's journey is part of something greater, something simple, something divine. A flame cannot be lit without a spark. A life cannot begin without the air. And we cannot begin to find ourselves without love. We may reach out to one another. May we reach out to one another. May we offer love and nurturing care. May we join together in celebration of the interdependence of our lives. Please rise as you are willing and able for the UU hymn and aspiration. Now it's time for joys and concerns, which you can, if you have a joy or concern throughout the week, you can contact Stacy Sasaki. Just email it to her, and it will be put in a place for us. There are candles up here for lighting a candle as well. So let's see. Oh, yeah. First, Tony Neal will be having a minimally invasive prostate surgery procedure on Friday, August 29th at Sharp Memorial Hospital. Please pray that all goes well and that insurance will cover everything, including post-op treatments. Thanks. That's Iris Neal. Thank you. This is from Joanne and Jamie. Linda Peck, our former office administrator of more than 10 years, has moved to Gardnerville, Nevada. We wish her much joy and happiness in her new home. So she had actually a relatively easy move after procrastinating for quite a long time, and then everybody pitched in and helped her move, and I spoke to her. She's really happy now, so we're glad for that. Which hymn? 369. Okay, it can wait. Okay, because also Iris Neal, and I would like to ask your power thoughts for Marianne Zundel's daughter Ray, who is going through a difficult time in her life right now, and she's in her early 40s and is struggling. So if we can all just send her loving power thoughts to get through this time. Okay, hymn number 369, if I'm not mistaken, which I probably am. Let's see. Okay.
I think this might be sort of unfamiliar, so I'm going to play it once through so you can hear it.
There we go. Good morning. Buena vida. I just got back from Costa Rica yesterday, so buena vida. I was with my family for a family gathering, so I'm wearing this dress that has leaves that remind me of the jungle down there. So, but today I have some marigolds. If anybody wants to come up and see them up close, they're welcome to. We're going to try to measure them. Anybody want to help me measure the marigolds? How do we measure marigolds? Let's see, I can measure across like this tallest one. That's maybe 1.5 inches. This one over here looks like it's 2 inches. You can measure the height, 9 inches. Is that all these are? Something to measure and quantify? They cost $2 per plant at Lowe's. So that's their value, I guess, for each of these plants. This is 3 plants in one pot. But there's so much. Is there more to this than just a pretty flower? I think so. Marigolds are, I don't know if you've ever smelled them. They have this lovely spicy smell. And they're actually sacred in many communities. And both for Dia de los Muertos, we've seen they use the petals. The petals of the marigolds are meant to guide the ancestors to the altars that are placed for them by their families. They're used in Indian celebrations and weddings and for Diwali. They're also, in the garden, they keep certain insects away from certain plants and welcome others that are beneficial to the plant. Some marigolds you can eat. You can eat the petals. They put the petals in salads at very fancy places. They can also be used medicinally. And one of the things I love about marigolds is what happens when the plant dies. They kind of dry up and shrivel, right? But each blossom, when it dies, leaves behind the seeds, right? Inside each dead pod, these are the seeds. There's probably like 50 in each of these little blossoms. So each of these is going to create like 50 more plants if the seeds get planted. So there's much more to measure or to value in the beauty of this one plant and the beauty of each of us and every plant and every critter. We all have much deeper worth than what is financially there or what you see with your eye at the first. So, measuring the marigolds. If you want to come up and measure them after the service, you may. But meanwhile, the children who would like to go with me, we're going to go back into RE, and we have a very special guest artist today. Nick Orr is going to be teaching. There he is in the back. There's our own Nick Orr. He's a professional cartoonist, and he's going to be teaching us some beautiful drawing techniques today as we continue to explore art this summer. So thank you for listening to this story, and come measure a marigold later. We have our song to sing us off to RE.
Also going to say that Nick used to be a little kid here when I first started coming to Summit in 27, and now he's an adult, but back and helping us out, so that's great. It's really neat to see that kind of cycle. That's it. Okay, and I did already introduce Reverend Everett Howe, but he's our beloved friend, and we're really pleased and honored and happy to have him back at the pulpit. Thanks. Isn't it now? Something else?
There's the reading.
The reading. Oh, I had it right in front of me. Sorry. No, this day has been completely nutso, so here we go. Mathematics. There is no algebra for death. No life lost cancels out another. The idea that there is some other side to the equation is a lie, perpetrated by centuries of war and revenge. There is no other side. You cannot subtract and equalize the equation. There is an addition of loss, grief upon grief upon grief. There is a multiplication of loss, ripples of sorrow expanding through families, friends, communities, nations. Division is a choice.
It's very good to see you all.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So first of all, I do want to thank the pickup choir this morning for singing the Inchworm song with me. That was kind of at the last minute. And for Karen for playing along. It was much easier once we had the piano. And it's from the 50s, that song, and it was still somewhat popular when I was growing up in the 1970s. And I remember hearing that song as a child. And I've got to tell you, I hated it. It really bugged me because I was a child who liked to do arithmetic. And as they say, the song was yucking my yum. And for no particularly good reason, because why can't you measure the marigold and appreciate its beauty at the same time? It's kind of like how some of the people who I know who most appreciate the wonder and the awe and the mystery of the sky at night, some of the people who most appreciate that are astronomers. So there's no reason why knowing the distance between the stars and the composition of Saturn's rings, there's no reason why that knowledge will make those things any less beautiful than they are, any less awe-inspiring. So in the Inchworm song, the comparison is between measuring the length of a marigold versus appreciating its beauty. And those are both things that one can do. And the song is asking which of those things that you can actually do is better. But as Mary's story points out, there are things about a marigold that you cannot measure. You cannot measure its beauty. You cannot measure its emotional significance or its cultural significance. Just like you can't measure love or happiness or the value of a human life. And I would say that any philosophy or moral system that depends at its heart on measuring these unmeasurable things, any such philosophy runs the risk of causing great harm. So, this sermon is about effective altruism, which is a philosophical movement that claims that it will help you do the most good with your life and with your charitable contributions. Perhaps most famously, if you've heard of this before, it's probably because in its early years, the effective altruism movement said that it was an ethical obligation for each one of us to work in the highest paying field that we are qualified for, and then to spend most of the money that we make on mosquito nets for people in Africa to help prevent mosquito-borne diseases. So I'm just curious, how many of you volunteer at a local charity, like a food bank or a shelter, or support a local charity through financial contributions? Is that something people do? I would kind of expect so, yes. The effective altruists say that you shouldn't. The effective altruists say that they have determined that mosquito nets save the most lives for the fewest dollars, and therefore all of your charity should go to those. This sermon is also about a movement called long-termism, which grew out of the effective altruism movement. Long-termists say that the number of human beings that may possibly exist in outer space in the future dwarfs the number of people who are currently living, so that a tiny increase in the well-being of these hypothetical yet unborn space people outweighs by far the life or death of all the people currently living on Earth. So, does anyone here care about climate change or poverty or social justice of any kind? Anyone? I kind of thought so, yes. And do you donate money and time to help these causes? I think so. The long-termists say that you shouldn't, because that trying to solve these problems, they say, is an unethical waste of time. Instead, they say that you should devote your money and your time towards research on space travel and on so-called artificial intelligence. But I should say at this point that if any of you does consider yourself to be an effective altruist, because that's not unlikely, I am not trying to attack you personally. I am just going to try to spell out the objections that I have to these philosophies. And on the other hand, if you have never heard of these things before in your life and are wondering why are you listening to me, it's because there are very powerful people who subscribe to these philosophies, and what they are doing influences our lives. For instance, you might remember Sam Bankman-Fried, sometimes known as SBF. He was the man who founded the FTX cryptocurrency exchange, and who was convicted last year of 7 counts of fraud, conspiracy, and money laundering. He is an effective altruist, and he was well respected in the effective altruism community because he made many billions of dollars by fraud while supporting effective altruism groups, which may make you question the advice these groups give you on how to do the most good in the world. But there are more. Elon Musk, who you may have heard of, is fixated on populating Mars because he is a long-termist. Amazon's Jeff Bezos, he wants to have 1 trillion people living in space so that humanity does not, as he put it, stagnate on Earth. Mark Andreessen, the billionaire tech entrepreneur who helped advise Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, he would like AI to conquer space. So I hope to convince you that these movements are against our Unitarian Universalist values. And I hope to convince you that it is incredibly dangerous to have supporters of these movements in positions of power. So, first, let's talk about long-termism, because it seems to be popular among billionaires who could otherwise be doing some actual good with their money. The long-termists think that it is desirable for humanity to colonize the universe. Not simply to explore, but literally to colonize it, to put humans everywhere that we can possibly fit them. They want to maximize the amount of human happiness in the universe by maximizing the number of humans in the universe. And by humans, I should point out, they also mean simulated human beings living in computers. Really, they really mean this. And they're not afraid to use the word colonize, which always makes me think, really? Like, again? How did that work out before when arrogant white men moved into places that they persisted in calling empty and unoccupied? But the long-termists dream of sending probes into space that will build Dyson spheres around our neighboring stars. A Dyson sphere is a hypothetical structure that completely surrounds a star in order to collect all of its energy. And they want to use that energy to transform the star's planets into more probes or into computers that can hold simulated intelligence, simulated beings. And it's funny, because there's literally an episode of the original series of Star Trek where the heroes of the show encounter a device like this traveling through space, destroying everything in its path. And the thing is that in the 1960s, the story writers had the sense to recognize that a probe like this would be a bad thing. And our heroes in the show, after much effort, managed to destroy it. But today's long-termists are saying, hey, let's build one of these. And you might say that this all seems to be a little far-fetched, a little unlikely. But the long-termists have an answer to that. But first, you would be right in thinking that this is all unlikely. In the book, More Everything Forever, the science journalist Adam Becker points out that even the very first step in this dream of colonizing space which is having a colony on Mars, is much more difficult than people once thought. And he spells out what some of the problems are. One of the main problems, which was discovered in 2008 by the Phoenix Mars lander, is that the Martian soil is poisonous to humans. In the movie The Martian, you might remember an astronaut played by Matt Damon who was stranded on the planet Mars, and he survives in the movie by planting potatoes. In real life, the potatoes would die, and so would have he. The thing is that the long-termists don't deny that this future that they are planning for and dreaming of may be unlikely. But they have an answer to that. They estimate that over time, the number of people and simulated people that the Milky Way, our galaxy, can hold, they estimate that number as 10 to the 45th power, which is a billion, 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 billion. It's a lot of people, hypothetical people. And the long-termists ask us to consider two alternatives. On the one hand, suppose that somehow we could make all of the roughly 10 billion people on Earth safe, well-fed, housed, happy, and completely fulfilled mentally and emotionally. Option one. On the other hand, suppose there is one chance in a billion that we could fill the Milky Way with people that are only a billionth as happy as our hypothetical Earthlings on Paradise. If we take the huge number of people that they are envisioning and multiply it by this tiny probability, a billionth of a chance, and then multiply that by even the 1/1000th of the amount of happiness, the minuscule amount of happiness that we're hypothesizing for these people in space, that number is still 100 million times more than the happiness of every single person on Earth in an ideal world. And so, they say, logically, if this number is bigger than this number, we should devote all of our efforts to making this scenario happen. So they take three values. They take the hypothetical number of people that might one day fill the Milky Way, and they multiply that by another kind of made-up number, which is the probability that that could ever happen, and they multiply that by the amount of happiness these people might have, which, I should say again, you can't measure. They multiply those three numbers together and they come to the conclusion that we should not work on any problems facing humanity now. And I want to say, speaking as a minister and speaking as a mathematician, that this is more than nonsense. It is unethical. It is unethical to ignore all of the problems that we face right now. It makes no sense unless, perhaps, you run SpaceX, Musk's space program, or Blue Origin's, Bezos's space program, or OpenAI, Sam Altman's company that produces artificial intelligence. If you happen to own those companies, it is in fact highly profitable to claim that the most good that you can do in the world right now is to try to figure out how to fill the universe with space stations carrying AI simulations of people. So, the most good that you can do, that is the connection between these long-termists and the general effective altruists. The effective altruists tell us that you can measure how much good comes from an action, and they claim that they can provide these measurements and tell you what to do with your lives. And I want to say that I have a personal connection to this. It's not entirely abstract stuff. Because I faced a decision once. Around 2013, after spending a lot of time thinking about it, I was finally deciding that maybe I did want to enter seminary. I had a career already, I was happy in my life, but I thought maybe I could go into seminary. And just when I was thinking that this might be a possibility that wouldn't be stupid, just when I was about ready to start filling out the application forms, I was contacted by an acquaintance from high school. This is a friend who had made a lot of money in the banking industry. And this acquaintance was getting ready to start a new asset management company focused specifically on cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin. He wanted to learn more about the math and the cryptography involved with these currencies. And he knew that I had experience in both of those fields, mathematics and cryptography, and he offered me a chance to consult with the firm that he was founding. So on the one hand, I could go to seminary. And on the other hand, I could get in on the ground floor of a crypto investment firm run by someone who had deep contacts in the financial world. And right now, if I were a Christian youth minister on TV, right now I would pull up a chair, sit backwards in it, and say, you know who else had to choose once between ministry and worldly success? But I think that that comparison might put me in too good of a light, and it might put my friend in too bad of a light. But it was a choice, ministry or something which could produce a lot of profit. And the effective altruism movement would say that this choice was entirely straightforward. Because if I worked in the crypto industry, I could earn tens of millions of dollars, and then I could give that money away to worthy causes. But I chose to enter seminary and become a minister. And part of that definitely was personal preference. But part of it was a recognition that the effective altruists only consider things that they think they can measure. And they miss important aspects of life because of that. And one of those hard-to-measure things is the value of community and the value of relationships. Let me give an example of how the effective altruists fail to take this into account. One of the roots of this movement is an argument made by the philosopher Peter Singer in 1972. He said that if you were walking to work wearing expensive clothes and happened across a child drowning in a shallow pool in a park, he said that you would not think twice about jumping in the pond to save the child, even if it ruined your expensive suit. And then he said there is no real difference between ruining a suit to save a child right in front of you. No difference between that and spending the cost of the suit to save a child in a faraway country. With the same eagerness that you jump into the pond to save the child, you should give up most of your purchases and instead send that money to help the poorest people in the world. Now, to be clear, I am not saying that you should stop sending money to Oxfam and to Doctors Without Borders and groups that are doing good. But I do want to point out that there is a difference between saving a child on your way to work and sending mosquito nets to Africa. Namely, you are much more likely to be in community with the child you save on the way to work. You may know the child. You may know their parents. And by saving this child, you're not only saving the child's life, but you're creating a bond between you and the child's parents. You might start to work with that family to, maybe put fences around the ponds in the park. Or maybe you will work together to warn your neighbors when the border patrol or ICE comes around. That is the thing that you can do with your community. Sending mosquito nets to Africa may be well-intentioned, but if you are not in community with the recipients of the nets, or at the very least in communication with them, you will not know whether mosquito nets are actually something that they want. And sometimes it's not what they want. Some of the families who receive mosquito nets have a more immediate need than protection from mosquito-borne diseases. They need food. And so some people take the mosquito nets they were sent and use them instead for fishing, so they can get some food. And the problem is that these mosquito nets are coated with pesticides, for one thing, and also they're mosquito nets. They have tiny, tiny, tiny holes to keep out mosquitoes. If you try to fish with a net like that, you don't just capture the grown fish. You capture every fish, no matter how young, and you can decimate the ecosystem by doing this. And this happens, and it shows that generosity without relationship, without communication, can have very bad unintended consequences. So, how do you measure the value of a relationship? How do you measure the value of community? You can't measure this with a single number. And the effective altruists don't even seem to want to try. They view the African communities they say they want to help in the same way they view a child drowning in a pool, helpless and without agency. You don't ask the child whether they want to be lifted out of the pond. And they don't ask people who they're sending the mosquito nets to what their most pressing needs are, because the effective altruists think that they know better. Most effective altruists, or many effective altruists, have moved on from mosquito nets at this point. They are now long-termists, and they say that the most ethical use of your money is to support attempts both to build artificial intelligence and to prevent it from taking over the world. I mean, they like getting money for both things. And coincidentally, I'm sure it's very popular in Silicon Valley. And what I want to say is that we can say no to all of this. As Unitarian Universalists, we do want to help others, and we want to avoid doing so wastefully. Generosity is one of our values, but we also recognize that not everything can be quantified. We must make our ethical decisions based not only on numbers, but also on how our actions will help build relationships and build community. Because relationships and community, those are the things that will allow us to actually solve the real problems that we face here, now, on Earth, with people who actually do exist. May we recognize that life is not a calculus problem. May we center love and not mathematics. And may we treasure, not measure, the relationships that our generosity creates. Blessed be. May it be so.
Thank you. That was mind-boggling. I'll ask you later. Okay. Summit is a community supported entirely by donation. Those of you on Zoom, I'm sure you know how to go to the bottom of your screen and click on the link to put your donation into the appropriate place in our website. And then just want to say that it doesn't matter how small your donation, anything would be appreciated.
I'm going to play a piece called Eden by Hani Arani, spelled with an H. It's Eden in the word means denoting a place of great happiness and unspoiled paradise.
think this is your, oh, yep. I was going to say. Okay, so we're running a little late, I think, so we could take a vote. Do we all want to sing Blue Boat Home again? How about one verse, 2 verses, 3 verses? The whole thing. Okay. All right. You can stand up if you'd like. Stretch your legs. It is a nice song. Okay, it's time for closing circle song. So if you'd like to join, isn't it? Join hands for the closing circle song. And then, Oh, chalice. Yeah, okay. It says right there. No, it doesn't. Okay. Sorry, I'm just... Would somebody like to extinguish the chalice? Tony, can you do that or no? Okay, Shannon's going to do it. Okay. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. So we usually sing together hand in hand, join in a circle. Afterwards, we'll have a brief break, and then we'll come back and have an interesting air-conditioned discussion about outer space. check, yeah, check, check. Okay, everybody want to take a seat? Or not? Can everybody have a seat and we'll get started with the discussion? Thanks. Hello? Yep. Okay. You can just drag a chair up close if you want. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say about on the topic of digital or what's digital humans in space? Is that or yeah, or how to live your life? Yeah, here and now. Anybody got comments or something? Oh, Sandy.
Thank you, Everett. Just a couple of random thoughts. One, not every billionaire is a negative, like Bill Gates Foundation really does some, and Melinda Gates do some wonderful work. And I guess the other point is that, it's been calculated that not having children or having fewer is the best thing you could do for the Earth. So, this let's drive population up and send them out into space may not work too well in the short term. Yeah.
Send the billionaires out into space? Yeah. Anybody else? Oh, here. Well, I just saves me some steps here.
I just, we're so afraid of the AI and the billionaires, whatever. I just find it interesting on the other side that there's spirits or whatever taking care of us. And I find it real interesting that Elon Musk rockets never make it very far. and then the other thing is, I just heard this the other day, and it just kind of rang true, was that that AI, the spirits on the other side, are watching.
Kathy.
It's Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. That's some interesting thoughts.
Hi, Margot. Good to see you back. Thank you for your talk. I just find it so amazing and wondering and disgusting at the same time of what's going on. I like to think of us that we're in a time of spiritual compost. It's just turning it all upside down. But it is disturbing to me that, this small population, I'm trying to see this whole what's happening in our culture now as a boil coming to a head. It's just like the extremes coming in. And, it's often said in ancient traditions that love and truth are part of the healing process. So these guys are showing what jerks they are and, coming out, and it's coming out, but it's got to be out. But still, the rapid distortion through the misuse of AI and that kind of thing. Anything you can say about, how do we create balance? How do we keep our sanity in these times of, and your talk was so reminding of we got to live from our hearts, because the heart can accept it all, but the heart can also clean it out and recycle it at the same time. So, can we have, anything to say about how do we navigate through these crazy times and keep ourselves centered and grounded? Any thoughts from anybody on that?
Well, do you have a mic? Yes, you don't. Here. Oh, okay, yeah, that might work better.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question, but I think the community and the relationships, I think that is the response that we have to have, is that we need to make sure that we are solid in those relationships, because that's what's going to take us through these times. So.
Hi, I'm Mary, and I believe that what we need to do is simple focus and action. Like, I think the idea of protest is great, but I think we need action. And I heard in your sermon that you mentioned one little thing. You sort of buried it in there, but tell people ICE are coming. That's action. Some little thing. And like in your own life, you maybe can't do a lot for cleaning up or the big world problems, but you can recycle, you can do things, you can use groceries that are not packaged in plastic, you can make your voice heard in very small ways. And me, I'm not a big traveler. I love to be in my yard. Some of the most happy times I have, I go out in the morning and I water, and there are butterflies and birds and little lizards running by. For me, it just doesn't take that much to make me happy. So I think focusing on the small things, but the action, those are all action items. And you're warning people that ICE is coming is amazing. That's it.
My name is Tom. Welcome back, Everett. And I loved what you said about the mosquito nets, using them for fishing, and how horrible that is on the environment. And it reminded me of the book, The Poisonwood Bible by Barbara Kingsolver. Have you read that? It's kind of the same idea of taking something into another culture and having it not work. And anyway, there was that. And then being really personal, I'm at the point in my life at 87 where I'm just putting all of my effort into surviving and living and having a life, and I keep being thwarted by my body. I really want to be more involved in what's going on in the culture right now, and I did do the Pride March here in Santee with my grandson, and I could only make it up to Carl's Jr., but that was probably a good place to stop, actually. And but it just is something I want to do more of, and I appreciate hearing about the activities that are happening. And I think that's a way of making your community work for you and being involved in it. And I think that's what it's about, Everett. It's about your community. And like I've not been able to come to Summit for several weeks now because of physical things. And it just feels so wonderful to be here, and this place is a real refuge for me, and I think it's just because of the people here. And anyway, that's probably enough.
Yeah, I mean, we do have seasons in our lives, and there are times when we can do a lot of things and times where we're limited in what we can do. But I think you're right. I mean, you are part of this community, and this community is responding. So even if you personally make it to the Carl's Jr. and no further, I mean, your communities are doing more. So.
I actually had a thought while you were speaking about the community thing, because it is true that the people in this community and in a kind of a, if we consider ourselves a dot in a circle and it's kind of concentric rings of community getting larger and larger as you move out, and we're all part of that community, but to me it also includes the people on the other side of the planet. They're part of this community, and I can sometimes actually almost feel the presence of people on the other side of the planet. We are united in an I think in an energetic way, and so I don't see anything wrong with doing both. As long as it's thoughtful. Just on a little funny story, when I was living in Tanzania, there was a community near where I lived that the Europeans had come in and they tried to teach fish farming to this community so they'd have a source of food, and they couldn't figure out why it wasn't happening. It would just kind of peter out, and they'd go back in and they'd try to work with them, and then at some point somebody said, well, the problem is that their culture, in this particular group of people, they think fish are evil spirits. So they didn't even ask that question when they went in to try to teach people fish farming, and so of course they're not going to be doing that. So I just thought it was such a light bulb kind of moment. But anyway.
And I should be clear that I don't want to badmouth mosquito nets. They're amazingly good things, but it's equally important to make sure that the people you're giving them to want them.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And they're equally effective without insecticides on them. So, anybody else? Yeah.
I had a relative that was in Uganda, and he said the best charitable organization was the one that would hand out $1,000 to anybody, and he says it would trickle down to the people that needed it.
That's true. It would trickle down because that's because if you get any money, everybody comes. And you actually are required to hand it out to your relatives.
I'm Mark. Thank you, Everett. It was just an excellent offering. I enjoyed it so much. And for me, one bit of the gold, from what I heard you say, was a sense of not the value, but the meaning or the very possibility of generosity resulting in any altruistic outcome is really dependent on relationship, on connection. And so, yeah, I'm really holding that pretty closely from what I heard you say this morning. I do want to acknowledge that, we had a service earlier this year where we reflected back on the time of the pandemic. And I think you probably hold the record in this community of the person offering a reflection via Zoom as opposed to being in the room with other people. So for all the efforts you made during that very difficult time in this community, thank you for all the good work you did. You didn't get the in-person acknowledgement and gratitude. And so I want you to know that I appreciate everything you did in that time when we were all disconnected from each other, when it was really difficult to be in community. Yeah. So, and the last thing I just want to say is that I think that what came up for me as I listened to your reflection was that, I'll speak for myself, I have found, and now do not regret but embrace, experiences where I can be considered a patron of a lost cause. No one determines the altruism, and there is no algorithm for doing so. I decide, not based on any measurable altruistic benefit, but really the more personal question that you alluded to when you talked about your calling to enter into ordained ministry, and that is, what's the calling? What's the call for me? So not so much abstract measurements of unquantifiable phenomenon, but really,
what am I called to do? That to me is the most important question, and you've already kind of lived out that question in entering into your ordained ministry. So thank you.
Thank you. And yes, I mean, the time when I came here was unexpected for everybody involved, because we spent months like working out a contract, and I remember signing it on the day that California shut down. So with everything changed with that. So it was definitely not the time that I had been expecting, and probably not the time that you were expecting. But even on Zoom, having the connections with this community meant so much to me. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, I'm Al, and what I want to say is I'm still have immense gratitude. Your first day on the job on July 1st, 2020, and so my deceased wife was in the hospital Vern was in the hospital for the last time, and you took the time, and you couldn't go to the hospital, of course, because of COVID, but you took the time to talk to her a good half hour, which she really appreciated and really got to know her, and it was just. She spoke well of that through her final days. She said that, I'd like to see that Mr. Everett. And I said, Reverend Everett is, it's just not happened. So, but thank you very, very much. It's wow.
Yeah. It was hard for all of us, and I remember we had her service online, which was the first memorial service that I had participated in that was in that format. Yeah.
Steve, did you want to ask something from home?
Yeah. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
I can hear myself. Reverend Everett, I'm so sad that I missed the service today. I have two little kids and they're battling coughs, so was not able to make it. But I was so glad to hear your sermon, which I think I was having a conversation with Ren. I was literally having a conversation with my brother-in-law last night about this idea. Oh, hey, there I am. And I can't remember the philosophy that you were talking about, the philosophy that the tech oligarchs are all about, as far as transferring one's soul, or that it is a physiological thing that we could take someone's soul and put it into a machine, so then in theory have eternal life, which I find personally not great. And then you illuminated more about why that's not a great thing. But it also brought me, when I was having this conversation with him, and he seemed a little bit more warm to the idea, because he's very much into this, he called it predictive science fiction. But for me, I find it interesting that this philosophy almost gives an excuse for their greed, an excuse for the cruelty, an excuse for just basically hoarding as much as possible and feeding that insatiable hunger for more and more and more, because they're thinking, oh well, it's all an altruistic thing that I'm thinking about the others. And one thing that I thought was really interesting, and I don't want to take away from the main theme that you had as far as about building a community, and that really brought it home to me. But if anybody's seen the movie Sinners that came out in the spring, and you can watch it on HBO Max, it's a vampire movie. It's kind of a horror movie, but it's so much more than that. It is,